Hi everyone, John here. I just want to thank you for joining me here on this video. So I'm just going to get right into it. So in this video, I'm going to kind of give my reactions to a couple of things that have been going on in regards to this whole lawsuit with NAR, with Keller Williams, and how essentially Michael Ketchmark won for the sellers over $1.9 billion. I've been reading that's going to be over close to around $5 billion. And now NAR and Keller Williams, of course, are going to appeal the decision of what the jury has mentioned. They said that they are in favor with Michael Ketchmark and with the sellers, thinking that it is unfair, that it's against antitrust laws for a seller to be paying, quote unquote, for the buyer's agents, because, you know, the buyer's agents are not representing them, so therefore, why in the world should they be paying them? I mean, logically, you kind of think about it, you're like, well, yeah, why in the world should a seller be paying the buyer's agent? That makes zero sense, right? But it's a lot more deeper into that. So I'm going to go ahead, this is kind of like going to be a reaction video to what is currently out there. For example, with CNBC last call, they have Josh Flagg and Michael Ketchmark, which I think is very interesting to kind of like see his side and how he's trying to make it seem like real estate agents are colluding and then like essentially trying to like work together so we keep our commissions as high as possible, around the 6% mark, which we all know, depending on the market you're in, it sometimes could be 6, sometimes it could be 5, sometimes it could be 4. I mean, it really depends. Sometimes it can even be higher. I know some agents that actually charge a way higher than 6% because they provide a better service. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and just dive deep into this as we watch this last call.
Is there a different argument, though, that you could make? Because do you think that if a buyer had to pay the commission and not the seller paying both, it would damage housing? Or could the buyer just say, I can't afford it, but I'll just roll it into the mortgage?
Yes, because listen, when you're selling a house is sold based on the comps in the neighborhood and what it's worth. Okay, if a house is $5 million or $10 million, it's not the owner of the house. I read that article earlier where they're saying, oh, they're factoring in commissions and they're inflating the value of the house. That's not true. When I go on a listing appointment, I tell the owner of the house, here's your house. It's worth $8 million because the house across the street sold for $8 million. Now, we don't then go say, okay, let's knock it up to 8.5 to pay for commissions. Now, if a
this is 100% true. I mean, if they think by mentioning the commission and saying, okay, well, I want to net this amount, so I have to charge this amount in order to net what I want, you know, in theory, that sounds all great on, you know, on paper. But you know what? The reality is the market is going to dictate what they're willing to pay for that home. So just because you say, look, I want $900,000, but after all my closing costs and my fees and everything, I want to sell it for $1 million. If someone comes up to you and a buyer says, I want to buy it for $950,000 or $925,000 or $900,000, you know, you could say no. A seller could technically say no to that. But if another buyer comes in, it's like $925,000. Another buyer comes in $895,000. Another buyer comes in $900,000. The market is speaking. The market's not saying, oh, let me go ahead and let me figure out what, you know, the seller wants to net. The buyer doesn't care about what you're netting. The buyer only cares about what they're willing to spend for your home. So the seller could go ahead and try to make up the numbers they want. A real estate agent is going to do the comps, just kind of what Josh just mentioned here, and go ahead and figure out, well, your home is really worth $8 million. It's not worth $8.5 million. The market's just not there.
Buyer who's, you know, on a budget, you know, can't afford to do closing costs also. How's he going to buy a house? It's been working like this for years. Why would we change it?
Because the only person benefiting from this corrupt system are the National Association of Realtors and all the corporate real estate companies. These buyers...
The corrupt system that is run by NAR and the corporate real estate companies. I love how he's coming in swinging here in regards to, you know, who's really winning in regards to the commission battle.
Wouldn't it be cash strapped when they buy a second home if you weren't taking 3% of the value of their home away from them when they sold it?
See, going back to this, Josh Flagg just mentioned that you just can't just raise the price just because you're saying you're paying your broker commissions and all your closing costs. Essentially, Michael's kind of saying over here, well, you know, you're taking 3% of the value away from them. How so?
Leave the money in the seller's pocket. Name another product in our country that if you go to sell it, you have to pay for the buyer's commission. You want to sell your car, you sell it on the free market. Why in
I can tell you right now,
real estate Why in real
I can
estate, the
tell you
single
right-
most important no, please, I encourage you, Josh. What other market do you do that in?
Okay.
You
when
say you
I
can
go
tell
to
me which
South-
other market.
I think one thing that I really want to point out here before Josh gives his example of another market that does the same type of thing is the fact that Michael's kind of missing the whole point. He's kind of saying, well, why in the world is the seller having to pay the 3 or 2.5 or 2, whatever, half of the commission to the other side, to the buyers? What he's failed to mention on this entire interview is the fact that the seller is willing to pay the seller's agent a set commission. 5%, 6%, 4%, 7%, whatever percent that they're willing to agree on. And then it's up to the discretion of the seller's agent whether he wants to go ahead and split that commission or give a certain commission over to the buyer's agent to entice them to come over to their listing to see if we can go ahead and make a deal. Okay? So this is the same thing like if, when you get hired by a seller and they're like, I want to have my listing posted on the New York Times, or I want you to put a billboard in regards to it, or I want you to make sure that my home is on this certain magazine. All these things cost money. You get what I'm saying? So if we were to take the buyer's agent out of this, are we now going to go after the advertising companies for advertising the home that you're essentially trying to sell? This is just another marketing tactic to bring buyer's agents over to their home. There's an incentive. What happens is that brokers actually push deals to the closing table, right? They push deals along. When there's no agents involved, it's a little tricky. And if you are in real estate, you understand that trying to navigate the emotions on the seller side and trying to navigate the emotions on the buyer side is a special balance. If you were to say the exact same verbiage that your buyer says to the seller, the deal might fall apart. A lot of people don't really understand this because they're not in the industry. So this is exactly why it's so important to have two people negotiating these types of deals, because it could get very ugly at the very end and deals won't really happen. So essentially going back to the commissions, when you're dealing with in regards to paying a certain percentage of what you want, it's coming from the listing side. They can give whatever they want. Michael's saying that NAR is requiring, you're required to put as little as $1. The question is how many buyer's agents are going to bring their buyer to that home? Think about that for a second.
What's that?
When I go to Sotheby's or Christie's and I sell something, I pay for the buyer's premium and the seller's premium.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. People in Missouri aren't selling multi-million-dollar pieces of art at Sotheby's or Christie's.
But you just asked.
So Michael Ketchmark is now moving back on the whole thing and kind of like saying, well, that's not a good example because in Missouri, this doesn't really happen.
You just said a second ago, name any other industry.
listing person, but we don't do
Hold
that
on 1
here.
second.
I'm talking about homes. I'm talking about
Michael, let
person's
Josh.
home.
Michael,
Hold on.
please. Josh's
Hold
feed
on.
was out. Let Michael or let Josh respond. Josh, go ahead.
Okay. You simply asked a question and I gave you a response. You said, name one other industry. And within 5 seconds, I just pulled it up. If you're going, I don't care if you're buying $1 million painting at Sotheby's, Christie's, anything. If you're going to sell something at auction, while it's negotiable, when I place something at auction, okay, I put it up there and I pay the buyer's hammer and the seller's hammer. Guess what? It's been working for that way for years and no one's ever had a problem with it. So
Why doesn't it work this way around the world? Why is the only United States the only developed country that does this? No other developed country does it.
I don't understand.
2 or 3 times the commissions here.
Should we change the auction industry also? Like, why change it? I don't understand.
Michael Ketchmark is going to try. He's trying to. Now, obviously, he shot himself in the foot during this conversation when he said, mention one other industry, and Josh Flagg went ahead and told him another industry that's actually doing it right now and saying, why should we change it? It's working. Deals are being done. Deals are getting done faster. It's more smoother. It's safer. All that kind of stuff. Name another developed country that's doing this. Okay. Just because another developed country is doing one thing doesn't mean that we have to emulate and do exactly what they're doing. My question is, if another country is doing one thing, why are they not emulating the same thing that what we're doing over here in the United States? So trying to, twist, Michael's trying to twist words here so that it can work in his advantage. What people need to really understand here is that Michael is just worried about his bottom line. He's talking about the corruption and everything about real estate agents. What about the corruption and everything that has to do with the attorney who's trying to get 30 to 40% of the settlements that are coming in? Think about that. Like, we're not even talking about 2 or 3%. We're talking about 30 to 40%. This is what I've been reading. This is the range of what Michael's trying to get from these settlements and from the judgment that just happened right now for close to $2 billion. It is insane.
Because I'm not talking about people auctioning off $1 million paintings. I'm talking about people's most valuable asset, their home. And we're trying to get the corporate real estate companies and these $1 million brokers, so apparently like yourself, get their hands out of the homeowners' pockets. I mean, let the homeowners sell their products, their homes, without these mandatory rules. It doesn't have to be mandatory. What if they can't afford to buy that?
Mandatory rules. Now, again, Michael is trying to make it seem like these are mandatory. Like, there's no other way to sell a home but by hiring a real estate agent. There's just no other way. As a matter of fact, there are multiple ways. And this whole antitrust, from my understanding of what it means, is the fact that there's just no other way. That there's just a monopoly and there's just no other way. So the fact is there is another way. It's called for sale by owner. You could sell a home on your own. If you're a seller, you want to sell the home on your own, you don't want to pay any sort of commissions, you could try to sell the home on your own. Maybe there'll be a buyer walking by your sign, or you were going to have to pay for advertising to put it online, and you might get a lead that way, and so on and so on, right? So you do have a way in that sense. You do have the right to hire a discount brokerage to go ahead and get your home sold. That's another way you can do it. You do have a way to just pay a certain amount of money just to be on the MLS. I think it's a couple $100. You could be on the MLS, and then you give any type of incentive, as low as $1, to the buyer's agent to entice someone to come through the door. The funny thing is, when you're dealing with for sale by owners and you call them and you just try to get some information from them, they always tell you, I'm not willing to list my property, but I am willing to give 2 to 3% to an agent who brings a buyer over. So once again, they're incentivizing the buyer's agent to bring someone to come to their house because they know that this is what helps to entice agents to bring people over. Agents do not get paid on a salary. Agents do not get paid every 2 weeks on an hourly basis either. Agents are independent contractors that their whole entire way of making a living is based on commissions. So my point of what I'm trying to say is that there's multiple ways of trying to sell your home on your own if you want, but if you want to play with Keller Williams or any of these big brokerages that are out there, then essentially what you do have to do is, this is the rules that are regarded with them, right? If you want to sell your home with a big brokerage, well, let's say a good number of brokerages, then, technically you could negotiate a commission for what would make the seller agree to. Now, of course, the agent's going to keep it real with the seller. Hey, look, you could pay me 6%, 5%, 4%, 7%. Obviously, the more money you're willing to give to the listing agent, in a sense that the listing agent's willing to give a portion to the buyer's agent, the higher the chance the home is going to get sold a lot quicker. I mean, it's crazy. The majority of agents that are out there, I'm sure get 1 million emails from all over the United States that have different types of commission structures where they're saying, hey, look, check out this new building or check out this new development. We're paying 4, 5, 7, 10% buyer's agent commission so you could bring your clients and entice them to come over and check this place out just to see it. There is an incentive to go ahead and give the buyer's agent the commission. But going back to this, the seller's giving the money to the listing agent, and the listing agent is going ahead and splitting it however way they want with the buyer's agent. And the whole point of the MLS is for transparency, to let the buyer's agent know how much you are willing to pay for if a buyer were to like the home and want to move forward with the deal. Again, agents are not putting guns to people's heads and telling them how to buy and how to sell. At the end of the day, the seller's making a decision, and at the end of the day, the buyer's making a decision. Period. Going back to the video.
The house in the first place, they're going to have nothing to sell to begin with. Because a lot of people can't come up with $50,000 in closing costs just on the side just to pay their brokers and things.
$50,000 in closing costs? You're not going to have $50,000 in closing costs. That's just that's not an accurate representation.
Michael, you live in Michael. No offense. Patrick Mahomes probably paid $50,000 in closing costs of whatever house he bought. And
apparently, you don't know how much houses cost.
Okay, Josh's market. I love Kansas City. Josh's market's probably a little bit different, and the closing costs.
Yeah, way different. We don't have Sotheby's and
can go
that.
that.
Just comes to show you that Michael has no idea about this market. Josh is right. Look at his face right here. He's just giving this like weird face like, dude, what do you mean that, $50,000 doesn't exist? It does exist.
And your closing costs can go that high. And I think to Josh's point, if you're going to do your market, Michael, your idea in Josh's market or some parts of New York and, the coastal cities, I get it. You're going to have buyers pony up a couple $100,000 to buy a home.
Buyers are not going to have to do that because what's going to happen is free competition will come in. And a buyer will say, do I really want to pay somebody a couple $100,000 when I can find a home on the internet, when I can do videos of the home, when I can do all of that? 72% of the homes, according to the defendant's own data that was entered into court today, 72% of buyers are finding their homes without a real estate agent. And the only reason real estate agents have inserted themselves in the middle of it is they tell these buyers it's free to them.
Well, we know that it's not just you. The Department of Justice, according to published,
and mentioning that essentially that buyers, that 70% of the buyers, which is mentioned by the defendants, which is NAR, Keller Williams, and so on, that 70% of the searching of the homes is done online by the buyers. I'm kind of like wondering whether if Michael is actually being lobbied by Open Door, where essentially they're trying to kick out buyers agents and have people work directly with them. It's actually kind of interesting, the whole thing with buyers agents and trying to get them out of the equation and trying to make it seem like it's just technology, because people don't need real estate agents. They just could go ahead and do a deal and click a button here, click a button there, like if it's an Uber or something, and just kind of get your home on your own. You know what? Maybe one day it might be like that, but I find it a little hard to believe, especially with my experience with doing real estate, where it could get really crazy with a lot of deals, especially the higher the prices are, like the crazier I feel like it gets. You know what I mean? Dealing with people's emotions and when a deal goes sideways, like it could really go sideways and just be like a complete atomic bomb. So I think it's funny to think that just because buyers search online, of course, as a real estate agent, broker, whoever, when you're talking to your buyer and you're saying, hey, look, I know you're consistently looking for homes, right? Times have changed. Before, there was no such thing as like Zillow or anything like that. There was just an MLS system, a database that agents shared with amongst each other, right? Who were involved with the MLS system. Not everyone has to be involved. With an agent, you're not required to be involved in the MLS if you don't want to. You get what I'm saying? So, back then that's how it used to be. Now, the MLS is connected to Zillow. Zillow became Zillow because it made an agreement with all these MLS systems to essentially syndicate their listings over to Zillow. And that's why Zillow became such a huge database. Now think about this. Buyers, at the end, if for any reason they're going after NAR, they're going after the MLS systems and trying to essentially bankrupt them, how is Zillow going to get their data? Right? The majority of all the data is submitted through the MLS system. If we have to just go ahead and dictate just by an agent to just, submit to Zillow and then submit to Realtor and then submit to whatever by themselves, it might be a little bit of an issue, because the MLS is a syndication where it just syndicates everywhere. So there's multiple different benefits of what the MLS can do to help agents and to help the buyer consumers search for the home. Let's search online. Of course, because it's connected to the MLS and buyers can see it. And a good buyer's agent is going to tell their client, hey, look, if there's something that you like there that just got on the market or whatever the case may be, send it my way and I'll see what I can do to get either A, access, or B, to see what the story is in regards to it. Having a knowledgeable professional on your side is so crucial to make sure that you get a deal done the right way. All right, so that's with this video. There's another video that I wanted to show here. I think I was the CEO of Brown Harris. Let me see here.
All right, so what does the ruling mean for the industry at large and maybe what you pay for a home?
So let's see.
So what does the ruling mean for the industry at large and maybe what you pay for a home? Where do we go from here? Joining us now on set is Bess Freedman. She is the CEO of Brown Harris Stevens and a member of the National Association of Realtors, and Michael Ketchmark, the lead attorney of that lawsuit representing 500,000 homeowners in Missouri. Bess and Michael, thank you for joining us here. First to you, Michael, what
you can see the CEO like staring him down, like, ugh.
What is big settlement here? 1.8 or verdict, I should say, $1.8 billion. First up, where does that money go? Is money going to be kicked back to people who bought homes, or where?
Sure. I mean, we view it as a day of accountability. And I told the jury, this case is simple. It comes down to premises I learned when I was in kindergarten. If you take something that doesn't belong to you, you give it back. The money will be returned to the homeowners that were the victims of this rigged system.
Rigged system. I love to kind of hear this. Before it was we were conspiring. Now it's completely rigged. You know what's even crazier is that on the exclusive agreement that sellers write their signature on, which is an agreement, it's a contract. It mentions there how much you're going to be paying the seller's agent in commission if it does sell, and letting them know what you're doing with the commission if a buyer's agent does come into the picture, what you're doing with the commission that you agreed to pay the seller's agent for. Being completely transparent what they're doing with the commission. It's not even mentioning anything like, I'm going to be paying this magazine, I'm going to be paying the New York Times, I'm going to be paying nothing. If another agent comes in, this is what I'm willing to pay them, you know, for the same commission that you agreed to. So nothing is rigged, nothing is conspiring here, nothing like that. This is crazy.
It's been going on in our country for about 100 years, and it stops today. And we're going to hold these corporate real estate companies and National Association of Realtors accountable for their conduct.
And I understand you are ready or have already filed more lawsuits?
Yeah, the day that the minute that verdict came in, we filed the lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors and these other large corporate real estate companies to bring the same relief nationwide. And we expect the damages in those cases to be in excess of $100 billion.
$100 billion. You know, NAR again, I think I know which other brokerages you're talking about. I think it was Compass, it was Douglas Elliman.
And look,
I think Berkshire Hathaway, I think too.
We are wasting right now about $50 billion a year in wealth that's being taken out of the pockets of homeowners and transferred over to these corporate machines that have taken over real estate. And it's got to stop. The National Association of Realtors takes in almost $250 million in fees from local real estate agents because they have a stranglehold on the market. And
that's okay, Michael. But Bess, that's the NAR. He's talking about the NAR, National Association of Realtors, which you are a member.
Yep.
But you know, are you a corporate machine?
No, we are not. And I can't comment on the lawsuit because it was in Missouri, so I'm not going to talk about that. But what I can say is that the majority of all real estate transactions are done with two agents, a buyer's agent and a seller's agent. And what is being said, I think, is completely untrue. It takes away from the fact that the buyer's agent adds incredible value to the transaction. And so I think the narrative out there, the Wall Street Journal had an article where they referred to NAR as a cartel. It's ridiculous. And I think there's hardworking agents who are out there representing buyers every day, and this totally takes away from that. And I think
comparing NAR to the cartel, I think it's just even crazier too. Like essentially just kind of making it seem like they were just going ahead and just forcing commissions out of people.
I think it's unfortunate. It's the wrong narrative. Because
completely. It is a completely wrong narrative. That's not true at all.
We work together. It's cooperation. You get the best price when everybody works together.
And I'm sure, Bess, that there's people that obviously you're selling a home, you'd like to pay as little as you could. I mean, everybody wants to pay as little as they can for everything across whatever the asset class is.
That's
for
right.
most people, including myself, I will never buy anything more expensive than my home. This is the most important and complex financial transaction that most of us will
100%.
ever go through.
That's right. And that's why, you know, you have someone, if you're selling your home, you hire someone to represent you. They're your fiduciary. And also buyers want somebody to represent them, to talk to them about the pros and the cons, the neighborhood, you know, their financing, everything. So you want to have two people, just like you would in a divorce. You want to have two people on the side of the transaction. It's the
well, hopefully this is more of a marriage than a divorce, Bess.
But it can be a divorce, you know.
So, Michael, is your beef with the NAR? Is it with the compensation structure? Do you think that, and we've talked before, that there shouldn't be a buyer's agent, or if they do, the buyer's agent should not be paid by the seller, because that may be the conflict, and maybe if you're a buyer, you actually pay your buyer's agent?
We got nothing against buyer's agents. I think they're awesome. But the person they should pay for is the person they're working for.
The person they should pay for is him. That's the person who they should pay for, 30 to 40% of all the damages that he's trying to recoup.
With this member of the National Association of Realtors, she just gave away the case. She said you have competitors who are working together. They're colluding together to.
She did not say the word colluding.
Fix the prices at 6%. I mean, that's
There
what's
you go.
happening. That's what the jury heard 2 weeks of evidence of. We revealed the documents, we revealed the videotapes, we revealed all of the emails, and the CEO of the NAR testified at trial and took the stand, and we exposed him for what he is. It is a cartel. It's a cartel.
It is not a cartel. I take offense at that. It is not a cartel.
I'm sure you do, and I take offense at the fact that
because
the NAR
listen, in Brooklyn for a long time there was no co-broking, and you know what that does? A disservice to the consumer. What you're saying is really offensive,
and I take America or commissions.
It is not a cartel. I'm just telling you, it is not a cartel.
Can you answer this question for me?
Yes.
Why are the commissions in the United States 2 to 3 times higher than the rest of the industrial?
Listen, all commissions are negotiable. You can negotiate them at any time. There's no.
That is very true. Commissions are always negotiated, and agents have the right whether they want to go ahead and take the deal or not take the deal. So if let's say the seller wants to go ahead and negotiate their commission and be like, I can't do no more than 3%, the agent could agree to it, and could split that commission if they want to split it, or give less than half of that commission to the buyer's side. But it's up to the agent whether they want to accept that type of deal. It might not work for some of the big companies out there, but there are other companies that are out there, such as like Redfin and other companies that are like lower brokerage, flat fee type brokerage, where you pay significantly less, I think as low as 1% for the seller side. But the funny thing is that they always ask to pay on the buyer side some sort of incentive to entice buyers, agents to show your home, represent your home, and essentially get your home sold.
You don't negotiate anything. The jury heard videotape evidence that they negotiate from 6%, but they only go up.
So yeah, I mean that's essentially it on that one. It's just crazy to see how the attorney is turning this whole thing around and making it seem like that NAR is a cartel, that we are colluding, that we are conspiring here and essentially trying to keep our commissions high. And that's not really the case, because I am certain that if an agent goes to someone and says, hey, you know what, my seller's agent, as a seller's agent, I'm going to charge you 10%, the seller could say, no way, isn't it somewhere around 6 or 5%? Well, that's the market average, right? But you don't have to put that price. You can put whatever price you want. There's no cap and there's no minimum. It's already up to the free market of what needs to be done. There's nothing on the NAR website, there's nothing on the NAR handbook, there's nothing on the NAR bylaws or anything to that nature where they say that you need to charge a certain amount of commission in order to try to sell a home. Not at all. They give that's up to you. It's a free market and how you want to do that. In regards to the MLSs, where some of the MLSs are pretty much ran by NAR, some of them are not. So for example, in Atlanta over here, it's not run by NAR. It's with the FMLS is you can be a realtor or you don't have to be a realtor. It doesn't even matter, and the compensation is essentially really up to you. Same thing with NAR. When it comes to the MLS and they're saying you have to get some sort of compensation, well, they changed that rule to 0 because they know that these people are taking it to another level in regards to, oh my God, you need to put a price. Yeah, you're putting a price as low as $1, but not even as a penny. But now they made it 0 because they know that no agent is going to do that. No professional real estate agent on the seller side is going to go to a listing agreement. To a listing pitch and talk to the seller and just tell them, hey, you know what? This is how much you're gonna pay in commission and what you want to pay, and we're gonna offer on the buyer side $0. If you were to do that, more than likely, and there's already statistics out there because I did read an article in regards to this, that no one would really come and try to come to your house to get it sold. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. So something to keep in mind with when you are when you're looking at this whole entire thing with NAR, when you're looking at this whole entire thing with the big corporations and with this new lawsuit that's now being put on the table to go against the seller's agent's commissions being paid to the buyer's agent. I think recently I'm going to do a new video on this. It's essentially a couple days ago or yesterday, it was something like that, where now the buyer sides are now submitting a lawsuit, and it's just now becoming a whole complete mess. So that's pretty much with this video. If you have any comments or anything, just go ahead and comment below. I'd love to just answer if I get any comments at all. I want to hear your thoughts. Tell me what you think about this whole thing. What did you think about these videos, these interviews? What are your thoughts on this whole thing? And do you think this is a good thing? Do you think this is a bad thing? I mean, do you feel like that agents are really colluding with each other? I can't find one agent where that's what we did. Do you really feel like, we try to just keep it at a certain rate and that's essentially it and no more? I would love to hear your thoughts on this whole thing. I feel like it's all over the map where people agree and disagree. I feel like people who are not in the industry don't really understand. They feel like, why am I going to have to pay for this? But then when it comes to them, when they have to buy and it's their turn to go ahead and buy, then what? So there's a lot of mixed match information there. This has been going on for years in regards to this whole type of transaction. And, and it's been working, and its transactions have been done quickly, smoothly, safely, and and that's the whole point of NAR too. It's not just about giving certain guidelines or whatnot and what should be done. And I'm not talking about commissions. I'm talking about more like ethics and how people should conduct their business between agent to agent, and most importantly, keeping within the law and making sure that the seller's agent is representing the seller to their best ability, and the buyer's agent representing the buyer to their best ability. Their loyalty is to them. They're not, a lot of people, I've read some comments where a lot of people think that the buyer's agent just, sell it as high as possible. Well, sure, yeah, our commission is based on that. But let me tell you something. If you can't back up your data for a higher price, then why, then your buyer is going to really contemplate whether if you're a good buyer's agent. The buyer wants to pay the least amount possible. And if you're going to come up to them and say it's going to cost more, sometimes it might, but back it up with data. By law, you're supposed to, be loyal to your buyer and making sure that you do it. And if you're not, then there's repercussions not only with the state law, but also with NAR too. So something to keep in mind when people want to go ahead and talk all this crap about the National Association of Realtors. They're there to actually protect us, and they're just to make sure that deals are done smoothly, efficiently, giving us like tools, a bunch of like documents and everything, so that everything can be done accordingly, safely, and within the law. And that's pretty much it.